All right, so sorry for the bell. Today we are starting our lessons over reflections. And if you look at this graph right here, you can see this green triangle is a reflection of this purple triangle. Now, reflections involve a couple things. Thing one is usually a shape or a point, and thing two, we have to have a line of reflection. The line of reflection essentially is whatever is exactly in the middle of that shape. So in this case, pardon my line that's not straight, our line of reflection is this y-axis. Okay, I'm just going to clear that out because that is ugly. You can pretend. Y-axis right here is our line of reflection. Now, the line of reflection decides if I were to have this, cut this out on a piece of paper and fold it on that line, fold this over, these two shapes would sit exactly on top of each other. So notice they're kind of facing different directions. That is what we're doing today. We are working on how to make that look. So we have these two triangles, similar triangles to these, as you can tell, face in different ways. If I fold down this y-axis, this blue triangle would sit and the green triangle would sit on top of each other. So let's compare. Same shape, same size, different, they kind of flip over. So if you go to slide 3, now we're going to write that rule. Take a look at these ordered pairs. These are the ordered pairs that were used when they graphed this green triangle. These are the ordered pairs that were used when they graphed the blue one. Look closely at these numbers in the X and the numbers in the Y column, and then come over here and look at the blue numbers and make an observation. What do you notice about these numbers? How are they the same? How are they different? Because in class, what we're noticing is if we look at the column of values right here, it goes -2, -1, -4, -2. And then you compare them with the column of values on the image or the copy. It's the same numbers, only instead of these being negative, these are positive. So like we did in the exponent rules and earlier, let's write a rule. So the rule we settled on in class is, I notice that when we reflect an image across the y-axis, the first numbers, or the x values, went from negative to positive. But we don't want to say that because what happens if they start negative? Can you guess what they might, or if they start positive, can you guess what they might do? Yeah, they would change negative. So we're going to say the x values change signs. Now look at the y's. This column compared to this column. Is there any difference? Nope, they're exactly the same. So then we're going to say, and the y values stay the same. Now let's write an actual algebraic rule. So if I follow these words, the x values change sign, what's going to happen to my positive x? Well, it's going to become a negative x. And then the y values stay the same. So my positive y is going to stay a positive y. So get this copied onto slide 3, hit submit, and let's go over to slide 4. So now you're gonna get to use some of the magic of Desmos on this. We have this green triangle that's graphed using these points. We're gonna come down here into this blue table, and we're gonna use that rule that we just found on these ordered pairs. So the rule, if you remember, says the x values change signs, the y values stay the same. My x value starts as a -3, so what is it going to become? Should become a +3. And the y value stays the same, so it's a 2, so it's going to stay a 2. And you'll notice over here, it's gone ahead and plotted that point. We're going to do the same thing as we go down. The -1 becomes a +1. The y value of 1 stays a 1. Next one is a -1 and 4, so it becomes a +1 and a 4. And you can see my triangle being drawn. -3 becomes a +3, and the 2 stays the same. So now I have my reflection. So pause this video and go ahead and try slides 5 and 6, and then come unpause when you're done. I will go through and work on 5 and 6 and see if you get the same answers. -3, +3, and 2. -1 turns to +1, and 5 stays the same. -6 turns to +6, 4 stays the same. -3 turns to +3, 2 stays the same. See how it's just flipped. Last one. +3 now, starting positive, so now to change the sign, we're going to make it negative. Y stays the same. And there's what you should have. So now comes the graded part, because we did this part together in class. Slides 7 and 8 you're going to do on your own. You don't get to use the cheating part about Desmos where it's going to graph for you. You're actually going to have to do the graph. But here's how it works. It says in the box below, write the ordered pairs of the reflected image. Be sure to label each one and use parentheses. So we're going to shortcut that. We're going to copy it and paste it in here. Now, these are the original. We have to show how to differentiate between the original and the copy. So we're going to go ahead after each letter and we're going to put that little apostrophe. That would read as A prime or B prime or C prime, meaning it's a copy of the original. Now we're going to apply that rule to these ordered pairs. The rule said, first the x value changes sign, so my +1 becomes a -1. Y value stays the same, so nothing happens to that too. And then we'll come down here and make all those first values negative. So there's my ordered pairs, so I'm done with number 1. Number 2, click and drag each point to where it would be if it was reflected over the y-axis. Well, you have 2 ways you can do this. You can graph this point, -1, 2, grab A, move it over to -1, 2. Or you can look at where A is located on the y-axis. If I look at A, it's 1 block, 1 unit away from the y-axis. So to flip it over the y-axis, it has to be 1 unit away on the other side. It's going to stay on the same row. It's just going to be the same distance away from the y-axis. So B is 1, 2 squares away. So if I move it over here to the y-axis, I have to go 2 squares on the other side. C, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. C is 6 squares away. So then I would go and I would move C to 6 squares on the other side. And then the same thing with D. It's 1 away here, so it's going to be 1 away there. So now I have flipped that shape. So this slide is done. You hit submit. And you're going to do the same thing on your own on slide 8. You'll turn in slides 7 and 8 into Echo, and that's all for today. I hope this made sense. Hope you feel better. See ya.